In recent years, there has been incredible advances in our understanding of how reading is learnt the most efficiently and effectively. Today, I will share the exact scientific method to teach reading. Recent changes in the ethics surrounding MRI technology and the scanning of children in clinical trials have shed incredible light on the pathways involved in reading acquisition. The first critical aspect to understand is that reading is not natural and does not develop in the same ways that speech does. What we teach, the sequence, and how we teach matters. The pre-reading skills that children need is phonological awareness, or the ability to hear individual sounds in speech. We can build this by singing and reading to kids and expanding their vocabulary as much as possible because oral language is the foundation of reading and comprehension. First, we must teach the most useful and regular sounds. Don't start with A and work your way through to Z. A good place to start is with SATPIN. For 12 weeks, at least 4 times per week and 10 minutes, using magnetic tiles or printed letters to practice decoding. We introduce the letter names as well as the sounds. And I like to say, for example, this is a cow and it says moo, and this is the letter S and it says S. Don't worry if it feels repetitive. We are building long-term memory and instant recall. And if you check out my video about teaching kids to remember, the 12-week part is critical for establishing long-term memory. Next, we're going to start building in some speed to promote those letters jumping off the page. I like to turn it into a game and I'll say, race me, race me, race me, and making it as fun and interactive as possible. Next, we're going to add T, M, O, F, B, and C. We practice these letters as well as the previous letters, and we do this for another 12 weeks. But in this cycle, we're going to introduce 7 irregular sight words that are high frequency. And in the final 6 weeks, we're going to introduce short decodable reading books. You can also use spinner games and movement games to practice these concepts. And I'll actually make a video about these to give you some ideas. So next we're going to introduce a letter every week. So moving on to D, E, K, H, J, G, U, and R, W, and Y with one more irregular sight word. We continue practicing these with decodable readers and games. Keep reading to them, keep singing with them, and do this for another 12 weeks. Again, don't worry if this seems repetitive. It's developing long-term memory and automaticity. Finally, we're going to introduce the last letters of the alphabet and one digraph per week. Now, digraph is 2 letters that make one sound. Starting with E, U as in moon, the, sh, ch, qu, ow as in cow, and R. It's really important to keep like sounds separated by at least 3 months. So we don't do E as in street and E as in leaf together. We want to map these separately into the brain. We keep circling back to previous sounds and sight words, and we're practicing with decodable readers. And now is a good time to introduce handwriting. You're probably up to about 30 minutes per day now, with 10 minutes for letters and sounds, 10 minutes for reading, and 10 minutes of writing. Of course, you can separate these things out because most kids' attention span when they're young is about 10 to 20 minutes at a time. Consistency is really important, so please don't stop for the school holidays. Next, we need to move away from decodable readers and start using early readers, whole language books, or predictive text readers. These are excellent for building our reading comprehension. We also are including one spelling rule per month. Spalding spelling rules are really good, and I like to start with the CK rule, and I don't include things like I before E except after C. I only use rules that are consistent. We are also explicitly teaching one irregular word per week, words like sugar. So we draw their attention to why it's irregular. We're not asking them to memorize it because rote memorizing spelling lists are a really inefficient way to learn. It's better to teach them strategies and pointing out why they're irregular. So we're still decoding, but we're giving them the opportunity to map it to their brain so they remember. We will also progress to root words and eventually root languages, as spelling rules are quite consistent once kids can identify if a word is Anglo-Saxon, Latin, or Greek. And it's really important to introduce past and present tense, plurals, suffixes, and prefixes. So the use of diagnostic tests only sporadically, not all the time, but they can help you to identify any gaps and help you to plan. Because if gaps aren't filled, they can be quite persistent into adulthood. So here's some that I like, and they are all free off the internet. Golden rules are encourage decoding, even if they are irregular, because it helps them to map it into the brain. We don't want them guessing, reading around, or thinking what might make sense. This is called the three queuing system, and it's super toxic. We don't want inventive spelling. This promotes memorizing incorrect spelling and can be very persistent and hard to undo. Always explicitly teach using a systematic step-by-step approach and reviewing everything. Even if you think that they've got it, keep circling back and don't move on until mastery or automaticity is observed. There are some really useful programs, um, but there really isn't any reason that you couldn't do this completely free. Always check for understanding and use lots of praise. Work at their pace. It's not a race. Consistency is critical, and let them catch you reading so you're modeling that it's a valuable skill. And keep reading to your kids as long as you possibly can, and try to introduce a fancy word every week so you can widen their vocabulary, because it's so important for attaining fluency. And above all, remember, you know your kids best. Good luck. Don't forget, I'm always available if you want to flip me a text and I will help you.